Welcome to the Sober Edge Podcast, inspiration for alcohol-free living. I'm your host, Terry Patterson, functional nutritionist and This Naked Mind senior coach. The Sober Edge is a place to explore the infinite possibilities on the other side of drinking. In a culture soaked in booze, discover the wonder and joy of taking a different path. Meet real people living lives of purpose and passion, learn the truth behind the alcohol myths, and get ready to be motivated, inspired, and astounded by what is possible with the Sober Edge. Well, hey everyone, it's Terry back with another edition of the Sober Edge podcast. And today I am going to share with you some lessons from my recent wellness retreat. Yes, I had the absolute privilege and delight of taking a week and exploring opportunities that don't normally come my way. And it was a unique opportunity afforded by a dear friend who invited me. And I understand that what I experienced is not available to everyone because of privilege and finances, etc. But what I wanted to do today is break down some of the takeaways from my time apart in order for us to start where we are and build on this idea of holistic with an H and wholeistic with a WH living. So I will share with you and reveal where I went at the end of the podcast. And if you are a subscriber to my newsletter, you're going to see some pictures from where I was this past week. But again, what I really want to share is some of the things that I experienced that I want to help all of us embrace and bring into our day-to-day life as a way of living more authentically and really coming to this place of what I like to think of as true wellness. So, what do I mean by authentic living and true wellness? I think it really starts with the foundation of holistic wellness, and that is paying attention to our emotional wellness, our mental wellness, our physical wellness, and our spiritual wellness. So I want you to think of those four pillars as how we tap into our authentic self. And where you are on this alcohol-free journey, some of this might sound very new to you if you're in the beginning, because it wasn't until I really created space, and I've talked about this before, but it wasn't until I really created space that I understood there was more ways to tap in, more ways to live authentically, things I needed to add, and many things I needed to subtract. So let's look at these four pillars. So the first one that I think we all recognize is like the physical part of wellness. And this looks like what food we put into our body, our environment, digital detoxing, and how we move our body. So this place that I was at had an equal emphasis on all four of these pillars. And that's why there's so many takeaways. So when we come to this physical place, I want to talk about the physical piece in terms of moving our body. And let's start there because we want to make sure that we're getting out and we're using it so we don't lose it. You know, this physical component. But other things happen when we're moving our body. We know that it helps with our processing of our emotions, because sometimes that physical movement allows our brain to be freed up and to think. Sometimes it helps when we're outside doing that physical thing because we are also doing dual duty, because we're maybe grounding because we're outside, or maybe creating space for an emotional release if we're doing some kind of somatic physical practice. So we can't underestimate the importance of movement. So what I experienced while I was away at this wellness resort was hiking. And if we think about hiking, being out in nature, feeling grounded, feeling that spiritual energy of being on the mountain, feeling the mental stimulation of challenging ourselves. I was using hiking poles, which if you've ever used, you get into a rhythm of how they support you, but there's some brain work that happens on the way. I also tried some new physical things that I hadn't done before, a practice called Feldenkrais, which is about honoring the ways that your body moves without overdoing it. It is a beautiful practice that I really enjoyed. I also tried sunrise yoga. I also did water aerobics in hydroplay each day. And I did a class on strength and balancing, and I tried Tai Chi. So part of this journey for me for this past week was, exploring new things. And I'll back up just a moment, because how did I know that this place was going to really speak to me? As I mentioned, I was invited by a wonderful friend who I was just so honored to be extended the invitation to join her for the week. And one of the things is that I didn't know a lot about this particular place, but when I got there, one of the things that was offered for the first day as part of our orientation was an intention setting. So I went to the intention setting, and I was so delighted, because if you know me at all, if you followed me at all, one of my key ways that I move in this world and that I use my coaching and offerings in the world is with intention. And I always invite my clients to set intentions and to really focus on an intention setting practice, which shows up in all of the ways that I move in the world. And so here I was in this beautiful place, and the first thing I was invited to do was set an intention. And the woman that led the intention setting practice did it in a way that was kind of new to me, which was really fun. And then we did sort of a word and brain dump, and we came to this final place of intention setting. And for me, the words that showed up was self-discovery. And so I really went into this week with the intention to try new things. And so all of the things like Tai Chi that I had been so curious about for so long. I even tried aerial yoga, which was fascinating. So there was many other things I didn't have an opportunity to try. And that's okay. But really, by setting an intention. And the second thing that happened that was so fun, if you have heard me talk about nutrition, you know that I often suggest that to get more balanced, to get some additional minerals in our diet, that you should add Himalayan salt to your water. So imagine my surprise and delight when I went into the morning lounge before a hike one day and found packets of Himalayan salt that were there intentionally to add to your water. This is how I knew this place was going to speak to my idea of wellness and wholeness. And so far, I want to just remind you that these things that I experienced, this opportunity to set an intention, this opportunity to add to add salt to my water, are available to all of us in our day-to-day life. And this opportunity for movement, getting out in nature, such as I did on the hikes, getting into a body of water. This is available in your hometown. You do not have to go away for a week. And this beautiful idea of self-discovery is available for all of us. So this was the physical part of this journey that I was on, is really honoring that place. And if you know me, and I'll be very vulnerable here, one of the things I have struggled with is the practice of getting into a set routine. In my 40s, I was, had a gym membership and I loved it. But then we moved and I kind of fell away, and I tried different things over the years. And I have to confess that as I have moved into coaching full time, I am so uh, tethered to my desk, but in a good way. Like I love coaching and I love showing up for all of you. And I love to create new offerings and I love to record podcasts and meet with you. And so I don't consider it a downfall, but I need to create more space for the physical part. So part of my self-discovery was to come away from this week and this experience of knowing I had tried new things and honing in on something that I wanted to bring back with me. And so I'll tell you at the end what I'm going to take away specifically when it comes to this movement. So that was a bit of the physical part. And also, I think, well, this is probably more of the mental. So let's talk a little bit about mental wholeness as part of mental wellness, as part of being in this holistic place of wellness. So for mental wellness, we have to think about the stimulation, adding mental stimulation, but also subtracting. And so one of the things that was available during this week away was this digital detox. So, environment can be so powerful. And one of the things that, as a wellness center, they invite you to take a digital detox. So, they even had little baggies, sleeves for our cell phones. There was a no cell phone policy everywhere we went. You were not allowed to talk on your phone unless you were in an actual designated phone booth, and you were also not allowed to, or in your room. So there was nobody chatting on their phone. And it's amazing what a difference that makes. People were present because of this practice. There was no sudden jarring distraction because you overheard someone else's conversation, and it was quieter. There was a peacefulness that was part of this quiet dynamic of no cell phones. And so there was internet available a few places. And in fact, I did a little bit of my coaching work because we actually had Wi-Fi in our room, but there's only like 5 or 6 places where you could, 5 or 6, um, 5 or 6 rooms or casitas where you could access Wi-Fi. So that was very unusual. And in fact, my friend who had visited before said that she had rarely had a room where there was Wi-Fi. And for me, it was great because it allowed me to meet with some of you while I was away. But overall, this beautiful idea of this mental break. So that was something that we subtracted from our wellness experience. We subtracted the distraction of having your phone and having your device and feeling hooked in and, constantly on this little, device that was distracting. So we subtracted that. And then we added some mental stimulation in the form of meditation classes, workshops. There were some beautiful workshops offered in this idea of inner fitness. I'm going to say it again, inner fitness, because I love this term. And I invite you all to explore, what does your inner fitness look like? I think it's a beautiful way to consider this idea of holistic living. And that term holistic living or wholehearted living, I believe it is, comes from Brene Brown, right? So think about wholehearted living as this authentic, holistic, with an H or a WH, of living all of these parts of ourself. So meditation, let's see, what else was mentally stimulating? There was an improv group that got together. And I wasn't part of it, but then they presented at the last night and did an improv show. There was music, which was so mentally stimulating. Our particular guests that were there at the center had, where there was music, there was a children's orchestra that performed. And so that mental stimulation was alive and well. And so things that we added, right? And we added beautiful workshops around health and emotional mastery and climate change and geography. And so there was creative endeavors, which kind of speak to this idea of mental wellness, but also maybe emotional wellness. There was a wonderful aspect of play, which I think also speaks to mental wellness. We know from the work of Stuart Brown, we cannot have a vibrant life when we ignore play. And so there was many ways that we explored play. And that was just a beautiful part of the experience. So, mental wellness was part subtracting and part of our idea of adding in these beautiful offerings. And then let's move on to emotional wellness. So there were several emotional wellness components in this that I think we can bring into our world. And I'm sorry, I forgot from the mental wellness. We can do these things at home, right? We can find things that stimulate our brain. We can listen to music. We can take a digital detox. Your phone has a wonderful device that will track how much you have been on your phone and the types of usage. And you can challenge yourself to just do less and, to put your phone away when you're out in nature, to put your phone away when you're at a meal. And you can have your own mental wellness experience. And so, as we look at mental wellness, I'll just mention one other thing. I did take one class that was really interesting, and it's based on the work of a woman who offers something called dual thinking. And I will reference this in the show notes because I think it's really interesting how we can use this. And her name is Deborah Klatt. And she really has this beautiful way of sharing how we can physically move our body while we're stimulating ourselves mentally. And that is proving to be a beautiful offering as we age to keep our cognitive muscles healthy. So to avoid dementia and cognitive decline. And so we were in this beautiful class where we did things, like balancing while throwing balls or reciting the alphabet backwards. And so it's just this idea of using these dual things together to create an outcome that stimulates our wellness, our overall wellness. So that was another aspect of mental wellness that we can absolutely do at home. So this is why things like doing puzzles and Sudoku are so powerful, but also our instructor mentioned that dance is one of the best things for our mental cognition as we age because it involves remembering complicated choreography while moving your body. And so that dual thinking is what's really powerful, is doing those two things at once. So you can absolutely do that anywhere you are and learn a few new dance steps or take a dance class. And I live in the country, so line dancing is alive and well. But anything you can explore to help you with that mental stimulation. And the other thing that we did that kind of crosses the line between, I think, mental and emotional was this beautiful community that they have at the center. And it is a core part of what is offered in this time away. And so every time we went to have a meal, there was the opportunity to sit at a community table. And so we met so many interesting and delightful people. And many people come here to this place by themselves because they know that they're going to have some mental and emotional stimulation of connecting with humans. And they're also going to maybe do that subtraction of emotional wellness by taking some time alone. And with the emotional piece, there was a labyrinth. There was a reflexology path that you could walk. There were beautiful statues. There were hammocks. There was places to rest. And I think we forget how important rest is. And so this is something we can bring into our at-home daily practice, is this idea of emotional wellness with being in community and also building in rest. And then, we had workshops on journaling. We had an opportunity to practice gratitude together. We had, again, this beautiful musical component. There was an amazing violinist there, and having that emotional piece, that stimulation, it was really, really beautiful. They also had like an organic breakfast hike. And so that sort of, if you think about that, you could do this same thing at home. You could go on a Saturday morning to your farmer's market and buy things for a picnic, and then take a short hike and enjoy the emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual stimulation. And so the spiritual part was woven in kind of this emotional piece as well. And so, what I think the biggest takeaway for me was this idea that these four pillars are things we need to not step away once a year when we go on vacation, or take but things we need to build into our everyday life. And so again, the mental part of maybe subtracting and then adding things, like subtracting distraction and adding meditation, adding a labyrinth walk, adding grounding, adding stimulating conversation, adding a puzzle to your life, adding some dancing to your life. And then the physical part of moving, and moving in a way that is not only like a class where you step out of your day-to-day world, but incorporating more movement into your day-to-day life. And so one of the things that happened where we were was you walked everywhere. Nobody had an e-bike. Nobody took a cab. This was a self-contained 4,000 acre piece of property where you walked everywhere. And so that is part of staying healthy and fit, is to spend as little time in our car as we can and start doing more walking and carrying things. This is the way when people talk about the longevity of people in the blue zones, this is part of what they do. They walk everywhere. And so that's not something that I myself, living in California, I don't walk to the store because it's several miles away. I live in a rural part. So, we have to start to build in ways to get more natural movement throughout our day. So I think that was a beautiful part of it. And then just this idea of what does it look like to set these intentions and then to explore new things and then to take time to rest, be in community. There's this beautiful ebb and flow. And I think it's why so many people choose to go to this particular place, and they choose to take time to reflect and to regroup and to rejuvenate. And I think that we can do this even taking maybe one day. We used to, back in ancient times, there used to be a much more robust practice, spiritual practice of the Sabbath. And the Sabbath is taking time away. That is the meaning of the Sabbath, if I get that right. And so imagine setting aside a day or a half a day to check in with yourself and explore, am I supporting my physical health? Am I supporting my spiritual health? Am I focusing on mental and emotional wellness? And how can I do that in a way that feels holistic, and feels delightful without the shoulds of, oh, I have to, walk this many steps a day, or I have to make this exercise class, or I have to lose weight. We sometimes get caught up in the dualistic thinking, the just black and white of what it looks like to be healthy. And so I want to invite you into the lessons that I had from this beautiful place called Rancho La Puerta. It is in Tecate, Mexico, and it is an experience that I may never have again, but I hope whether I return to the ranch or not, that I can keep bringing the ranch and the philosophy and the lessons into my daily life. And so I want to invite you into the things that I shared today, and I hope that you will also benefit from some of the takeaways that I had as you learn to focus more on this authentic living, this intentional life that we're building. And for so many of us, if you are still caught in that place of drinking and over drinking, it feels elusive, but you know it's there. And I want to promise you that, yes, it is in fact there. And I want to invite you to pursue it. And if you have let go of alcohol and life is feeling a little flat, again, I want you to think about this holistic approach to living. And it starts with, just like it did for me at the ranch, it starts with this intention setting. And if you are somebody who is thriving in your after alcohol life, I want to invite you to just continue to weave in all of these practices together and share your takeaways with all of us, with the rest of the world, because we get to influence one another, we get to support one another, and we get to grow together. So I just wanted to share with you this beautiful week that I had and how I am going to continue to bring these takeaways into my life and invite you to do the same. So I would love to know, how's it going for you with your intentions? How's it going for you with your spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical wellness? What are your lessons that you can share with the rest of us? So I invite you to connect with me at thesobernutritionist.com and share your thoughts, because together we want to be more authentic. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in today, and we'll have more next week. What combines fun, friendship, reading, and growth? The Sober Edge Book Club. Today's episode of The Sober Edge is brought to you by our Sober Edge Book Club. This is a book club for women just like you who are exploring how to get more out of life after alcohol. This book club is all about reading, about friendship, connection, growing together as we explore this beautiful life after alcohol. And we would love to invite you to connect with women just like you who love books and love their sober life. We have weekly discussion guides, a private community, and a monthly meeting that is vibrant and fun. So I would love to invite you to check it out. We're going to start a new book, brand new book, August 1st. So come and join the fun. I'll connect you with all the information in the show notes. And we would love to be BFFs, book friends forever. Hey, I want to thank you for tuning in and listening to The Sober Edge. This is a place to have important conversations and a safe place to question everything you thought you knew about drinking. If you're looking for your sober edge, I invite you to connect with me at thesobernutritionist.com, where you can grab my free resource, 5 Healthy Reasons to Take a Break. And I would be grateful if you would take a moment to rate and review this podcast so together we can reach more people who are looking for their sober edge.